Thank you for staying with us. Over the past week, there has been a lot of talk about defamation law and its application in Nigeria. This is emanating from the case instituted against human rights activist Farotimi by Babalola, a senior lawyer. Pundits have taken to social media space to explain their understanding of what the law says and share views about its application in Mr. Farotimi's case, a man perceived as a human rights defender. The seeming prevalent position is that this case is more a persecution for speaking truth to power. Indeed, the media space is a potpourri of opinions on this matter from both legal and non-legal minds. One such publication on opinionnigeria.com by Isaac Asabo presents the view that a gap between the theoretical understanding and real-world application of defamation law poses significant risk to free speech and journalism in Nigeria. He is one of the many who say that the case has exposed the tendency to weaponize the law, which is not its intended purpose, as it was originally promulgated as a civil remedy. Today, on one slot in the second half, we'll attempt, in the time available, to get informed submission on the legal interpretation and application of the defamation law as obtained in Nigeria using the Farotimi Babalola case. My guest is well known in this space. It's legal practitioner Liboros Oshoma. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right. Give us a quick definition of what defamation is and perhaps the types that we have.
Yeah, but quickly, before I go to defamation, because in your prologue, you talked about weaponizing the law and all of that. So quickly, let me first start with the Cybercrime Act. That's section 24. Please quickly permit me. It says, any person who knowingly or intentionally sends a message or other matters by means of computer system or network that he knows to be false for the purpose of causing annoyance, inconvenience, danger, obstruction, insult, injury, criminal intimidation, enmity, hatred, ill will, or needless anxiety to another person, or causes a message to be sent, commit an offense under this act and shall be liable on conviction to a fine not more than 7 million or imprisonment for a term more than 3 years, not more than 3 years, or both such fine and imprisonment. That's the Cybercrime Act. So I have had cause to talk about this, in the gathering of journalists, especially as regards reportage. And then defamation, criminal defamation, really. Defamation are two types. You have the civil and the criminal. Civil libel, civil criminal libel. And we know that libel has to do with publication, defamation, and spoken words. A lot of people have this misconception that it is only a civil wrong and not criminal. If you look at the criminal code, even the penal code, the criminal code in section 373 to 378, and the penal code in section 391 and to about 395 or 398, clearly provides for criminal defamation. So in our laws, the federal laws and most of the state law, it is a criminal offense. And the Supreme Court also, in the case of Aviomo, and the Commissioner of Police had also expressly, I'll quote, if time permits, I will quickly.
Because we are time constrained, and I would like our viewers to at least get the basic understanding before we move on to the complex issues. So if you could, before you go ahead, could you just maybe give us, ideally, how is defamation prosecuted?
That's what I'm telling you. First and foremost, let us understand that by virtue of section 37, definition of defamatory matter, defamatory matter is a matter likely to injure the reputation of any person by exposing him to hatred, contempt, or ridicule, or likely to damage any person in his profession or trade by any injury to his reputation. Such matter may be expressed in spoken words or in audio sound or in words legibly marked on any substance whatsoever, or by any sign or object signifying such matter otherwise than by words, and may be expressed either directly or by insinuation or irony. That's the definition of defamation by the criminal code. I'm quoting the criminal code now. And so it goes further to say, for the purpose, it also expressly defines, goes further to express defenses in defamation, in defense of true, and which is we call justification and defamation. So any comment likely to injure, you know, cause hatred for somebody, injure him in his professional reputation, can be termed defamatory, criminal defamation. It is not enough to say, no, these words were, since they have been uttered, you should pursue civil wrong. Because you cannot beat somebody or injure somebody and now choose how the person will seek remedy. And in the case of, what do you call it, Aviomo and the Commissioner of Police, the Supreme Court of Nigeria had this to say quickly. Also because I'm trying to distinguish between civil wrong now and criminal defamation. And I would quickly quote Justice Oguwumiju, Justice of the Supreme Court. In that matter, it held that the right of a person living in a community stop where the right of others living in that community start, and that section 391 to 395 of the Penal Code law, bordering on offense of defamation of character, injurious falsehood, printing or engraving such matter, that is criminal defamation, are against public morality, health and order of society, and the offenses, if proved, would have injured the right and well-being of a person to his character and reputation, and are therefore within the ambit of section 45 subsection 1 of the Constitution, and accordingly constitutional. The purpose, that's what this means really, is that, you know, because a lot of people had said that in your prologue also you said that the intendment of the defamation law in the first place.
Okay, so I wanted us to establish what defamation is, what ideally the prosecution process should be, and then I was going to ask you to comment on the recent controversy. I mean, that's the whole point of this conversation, really. So the argument that it is weaponized. So
that's why I'm trying to get down to court's pronouncement, the sections of the law. The Supreme Court haven't recognized that defamation can be an offense if proved. Then how do you now say it is weaponized when the court, the highest court in the land, had heard that your right stops where the right of the other persons in the community begins? What that means, no matter how defective a law is, like I say, you still need a law to regulate that law. What it does is to ensure that the society is orderly and not give room to unnecessary, accusations and counter-accusations. And then the way defamation is prosecuted. For civil defamation, it's a matter in personam. In personam in law means that it is a personal matter. If a person decides to take a civil defamation claim against another person, the moment that claimant dies, the matter dies automatically. But if you take a criminal defamation complaint against an accused person, even the death of the complainant does not extinguish that defamation.
So does that perhaps explain the arrest that was done and then he was taken from Lagos to Ekiti?
No, in defamation, there's what we call an offense at large in law. When you say an offense is at large, that means that offense had been committed in almost everywhere. And so everywhere that offense is perceived to have been committed has the jurisdiction to try that matter, especially for defamation. It is immaterial whether that
So sorry to interject again. Can you explain when you say it is everywhere?
That's what I'm getting to. Okay. It is immaterial that a book is written in this studio or a statement is made in this studio. As far as that statement is listened to anywhere in Nigeria, as far as the book is read in any state in Nigeria, the person that book is injurious to must not necessarily be resident here. The people who are going to read it must not necessarily be resident in the place that it is written. If it is read in Edo State, it is read in Delta, it is read, even if it is read in Sokoto, and the person who is injurious to feels that, look, it is injurious to me in Sokoto, that claim, that court in Sokoto can activate its jurisdiction to try the criminal defamation under the penal code in section 391. It's the same thing with the criminal code. Even in some cases where the state law has extinguished criminal defamation, the court also can activate the provisions of the penal code to prosecute criminal defamation. And we all know also that it is only the offense of extortion, criminal defamation for the purpose of extortion, that you cannot make arrest without a warrant.
Okay, I was going to ask you, has there been a case similar to what we have today between Farotimi and Babalola, and how was that prosecuted? Is there any similarity between this that is maybe aggravating the public opinion?
No, I think what's basically aggravating this is a fallout of the last election. There are cases I can cite, and let me give you an example.
I thought the case had nothing to do with, it had to do more with landed property and participation in the case?
The anger in the court of public opinion is a fallout of the last election, and the perception that the judiciary did not live up to its billing. And so to that extent, some people felt, oh, the judiciary has been compromised. But I tell you that almost every sector in Nigeria has been compromised, balkanized, bastardized. And in law, they say he who asserts must prove. Just the same way the law spells out penalties for defamation. It does not mean that once somebody feels defamed, you don't need to go to court for the court to make pronouncement. The person so complained against must still have his day in court.
Okay, so...
And so, the question you asked about whether there have been other cases such as this, I'll give you the example of... Awolowo's case was a civil defamation. He decided, but his death extinguished the right to pursue the case beyond that. Maybe, probably, that is why Chief Babalola, being 90-something, decided not to pursue that line. Also, recently, the case of Kemi Olunloyo, the publication was said to have been made in Lagos, or was it in Ibadan? But he was arrested. She was arrested and taken to Port Harcourt because that is where the complainant perceived that he's been defamed.
So I don't want to lose my train of thought. The human rights activist we're talking about here, Farotimi, is also a legal practitioner, and one would expect that someone with that background will know, what is attainable in the court of law. Is there a reason, perhaps, why evidence is being withheld? Because if there is evidence to the allegations that he put forward in his book that is now contentious, maybe all of this might have been null and the vilification of the judiciary might be justified.
But the issue is this: when you throw allegations, it is always very, to avoid all of this drama, to avoid the issue of the people mentioned in your publication having to come after you, it is always advisable, like we say in law, he who asserts must prove. It is always advisable to put out, and also as a journalist, to put out your evidence attached. That is why even in court, these days we attach, evidence to claims. Oh, money was transferred from this account to that account, and account number so and so and so with so and so bank, and that's investigative reportage. But in this case, I am not Farotimi, so I wouldn't know, because the matter is also still in court. So he might probably have his evidence. Both parties are going to have their day in court. Mine is to, look at the gamut of...
Yeah, I mean, this entire conversation is as a fallout of, there seem to be different perception about what defamation law is and the application of the law.
Except you are looking at it sentimentally. The law, I have read the law to you, I've cited the case laws to you, and that is what the law is in Nigeria today. Well, and quickly, I must say this also. When I advise people when police extends invitation to you, no matter how frivolous such invitation is, it is always good to honor such invitation.
In Nigeria, when you honor that invitation, there's every possibility. If you don't know any person, they throw you in jail and take you weeks to get out.
Even if you're a lawyer, you have a police invitation, security forces invitation. It's always good to go with a lawyer. Let somebody know that you're in some place.
You were invited, okay.
Otherwise, failure to honor such invitation in itself, it's also an offense.
There's something else I wanted you to also speak on, and that's the fair comment defense. When somebody say it's, I think I actually saw a legal practitioner talk about this, that there are some times when some of these defamatory statements are made, they say the fair comment defense in the public good justifies those allegations. Speak on that quickly. We're almost
like I told you, when you look at the definition of defamation, if you also go further down, it talks about truth being a defense to defamation. But if you look at the definition in itself of defamation, it talks about statements that are injurious. Statements that are injurious to another.
A truthful statement can also be injurious, isn't it?
When the statement is true, no matter how injurious, it becomes a defense.
Okay.
So when the statement is true. But fair comment is different from, if, for example, you make allegations, you say, we all know that the judiciary, for example, most cases are compromised. But in this case, you are not talking about somebody in particular. You're talking about an institution, and these are fair comments based on reportage, based on what is in the public domain. But if I come specifically and I make direct statement at specific persons to injure them in their profession, in the eye of the public, to cause hatred to them, that action can be termed criminal defamation. It is now left for you who made those statements to come prove the truthfulness of those statements, or you say these are statements that were made in other justification because they are truth, or that this person had done them and had repeatedly done them. We prove. So, but in this case, when there are no proof, especially when it has to do with direct statement made against institutions and not fair comments, like I said, then it becomes, an uphill task. And that's why I think that such scenario, I like the fact that Peter Obi had taken a step to visit the respected senior advocate to find a middle ground. It is also very convenient for people in the public domain to beat drums of saying, look, Dele does not want Peter Obi to intervene. At the end of the day, if there are no proof to this, those people, those hangers on social media, are not the ones that will suffer the consequences.
Okay, there's another comment I'd like you to look at. Comments that this case is highlighting the complexities and challenges with prosecuting defamatory cases.
No, not at all. So, not at all. There are no.
So why would such arguments come up if there is
like
clarity? Sorry to interrupt again. These comments are not made only by non-legal minds. Some legal people.
That's why I'm telling you that sometimes in Nigeria today, most lawyers view matters from the prism of their political leaning, depending on the political leaning, depending on the sentiment, depending on the culture, depending on the side of the divide that lawyer belongs to. I read the provisions of the law copiously to you. These are not my words. These are the law. So the prosecution, some persons had earlier argued that there is nothing like criminal defamation in our law. But I have told you and I've shown to you that it is copiously in both the penal code, the criminal code, and also cybercrime laws in the Cybercrime Act. So how do you say that laws that are clearly established, offenses that are clearly established in our law books, that there's a complexity in the prosecution of such offenses? Okay,
I have another one I think is also important. Are there any exceptions to the rule that truth is a defense in defamation?
There are no exceptions. If you go down to what do you call it, section 37, section 375 of 376, no, 377. It clearly states that the publication of defamatory matter is not an offense if the publication is at the time it is made for the public benefit and if the defamatory matter is true. That's section 377. So I tell people that our problem is not lack of laws, but lack of the willpower to implement this law and lack of laziness on the part of some of us to actually look at this law, extensively. So there are no complexities here. For the fact that a lot of people would decide to pursue the civil, aspect of defamation and jettison the criminal aspect does not mean that somebody who now elects to pursue, take out criminal complaint for a defamatory statement that is injurious to him in his personal and professional standing, that he does not know what he's doing. And then also, lastly, on this also, there is need for sometimes lawyers to restrain themselves in making comment on public matters, especially when they do not understand the entire, gamut of...
I know this is putting you on the spot, but I want you to speak quickly on the statement by the NBA regarding this matter. And as quickly as you can, because I'm told we have less than 2 minutes, what the stipulation for damages are in the law for defamatory cases.
I told you that for defamation, the highest, except it is a felony, it is meant to extort, where the damages is, the penalty is 7 years. But other defamation is just between 2 or 3 years. The statement by the NBA was what I was referring to. That was why I said, I think NBA, being a legal body that defends both the strong and the weak, I think they should always, learn to understand the entire, gamut of the evidence surrounding any action before issuing a statement. Because I think the NBA, after issuing the statement they did, it became so unfortunate for them to even subsequently defend such statement, where they eventually, knew what happened. So let's allow the court to deal with these issues.
Yes, that's a good place to leave it. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
My pleasure.
And of course, thank you for watching and the gift of your time. Remember, you can watch this conversation and others like it anytime. Simply find our YouTube channel and click on the playlist tagged One Slot. Just stay tuned to News Central for more programming. For me, it's bye for now.